Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Proline. It's already week 11 of the NFL season. I'm Dave Koken in Las Vegas, joined by Jim Feist and Las Vegas Systems Handicaper and expert Sean Hess. We're going to be looking at some NFL games. First, Jim, 26-10 weekend. Big one Saturday. 10-3-1 with your college football game of the year since, the last 14 years. And it goes this Saturday.
It does, Dave, and welcome everybody. It was a great weekend. Obviously, 26-10 is something we can really feel good about, especially when it comes Tuesday and instead of paying, you're collecting. So that's a happy day. This week, last week I did have, East Carolina and Kansas State, two big plays. Big plays on Sunday, including the Saints and the over. My college football game of the year goes on Saturday. Like Dave said, 10-3-1 since 1999. This play is available right now online for $500. But as a special, you can get it for $100 by calling 1-866-841-1655, and you get a bonus high roller if you call right away. These games of the year are big winners. Get on board. Make sure you make the phone call, 1-866-841-1655. You can buy it online right now for $500 or make the phone call and you can get it for $100. 1-866-841-1655. Back to you, Dave.
All right, Jim. Well, I'm going to focus on some under-the-hat plays this weekend. And, if you've been watching me over the years, you're familiar with these. These are strong plays that go out to everybody on my personal service. All my players get them, and they know what to do with them when they get them, which is to go out there and fire away. They're strong plays. So this weekend, what we're going to do is make it an under-the-hat weekend. You're going to play through Monday. You're going to get every under-the-hat play I've got in basketball, every under-the-hat play I've got in football as well, college and the NFL. And there will be at least 4 of these plays, a minimum of 4 of these plays. Could be a couple more than that, depending on where the numbers fall, because we don't know that now as far as the basketball for the weekend is concerned. So you're talking about strong plays, though, in more than a couple of them. And the cost is only $20. All you need to do is make one phone call, and you're ready to go. 1-866-896-1629 is the number. That's 1-866-896-1629. Sean, you want to sell anything?
Dave, I don't really have to sell anything. I'm just here enjoying with you guys, just trying to pick the winners. That's why I have a pencil. I got a pencil right here, 26-10. I'm writing it down.
There you go. Good stuff. We will hear later from Jeff.
Dave, Sean's just looking for a date. So if you can hook him up with a dating service.
At this stage of my life, I'm lucky to be able to be looking. Hey, but I'm older than you are, Jim. I can hear you coming up on the outside, but I'm still older than you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I can't catch up.
It's been a while since I've been the youngest person in any group. I feel like a kid again.
Dave, you don't even hold a candle. We're so far ahead of you.
I know. All right, let's see. Before we have Jeff Sodd's going to be coming up later with a little man on the street action. We get our Twitter question of the week for Jim, myself, and you, Sean. And follow us on Twitter at Jim Feist Sports or Facebook. We're at Proline TV if you go to Facebook. This is from Jack Ferguson, who lives in Champaign, Illinois. Nice football team you got there. Our NFL teams neglecting building offensive lines. A lot of bad ones this year. That's a tough question. I think it's more the rules. I don't think they're bad offensive lines as much as, they're not allowed to do anything anymore. It's tough to, if you're moving backwards, believe me, I'm not a football X's and O's expert, but I know a little about physics. If the other guy's coming forward and you're moving backwards and you can't retaliate in certain ways, you're not stopping him. It's that simple. I'm not saying that you got to bring the head slap back in the game, but they call nickel and dime holding all the time now, all the time. That to me it interests me. If they wanted to put, I understand the protection of the players and all that stuff, but I don't really think it's possible. So just let them play football. Now that's a rather cold callous viewpoint. I don't have anybody in my family playing the game, but I think a lot of the players might agree with that, Jim.
Dave, personally, I agree with you. I think the rule changes, the suits in the in NFL headquarters, et cetera, are ruining football. Absolutely, the players have no idea what's supposed to happen out there, what they're going to be called for, what they're not going to be. They're going to be fined for this and fined for that. And if you're going to get fined every time you do something, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, eventually you're just going to stop doing it. And tackling gets worse. As far as offensive line play is concerned, the league has gone, for the most part, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are not like this. So, for example, you get a Kansas City who runs the ball and plays great defense, and they play a lot of dink and dunk offense with the passing game. But there are teams out there that are just dropping back 40, 50 times and throwing the ball all over the lot.
Yep.
That's when your offensive line has to drop back and block. So they have to become good at pass blocking. In the old days, half the talent was they were required to run block and the pass block. And some of these offensive players in college were pretty good run block offensive linemen. But now they're in the pros and these new rules, and if you get a coach that wants to just throw the ball all the time, now you have to pass block all the time. So, your quarterbacks get hit more because they're back there in vulnerable positions more. So you have a lot more quarterbacks going down, and we see that all over the league. You got starting quarterbacks everywhere falling, and then you have backup players everywhere. I mean, hell, Matt Flynn played one good game in his life, and he's gotten like 4 contracts, and now he's back to where he started. It's a complete joke. Because of the litigious factors out there, and the league being worried about getting sued for concussions, et cetera, they've changed all the rules, and they're ruining the game. So they need to get their head out of their ass and change some other things rather than all these rule changes they're doing. They're ruining the game. The offensive lines are not worse. It's just the rules, like Dave said. These players coming out of college, they're just as talented. They're bigger, stronger. But when you change the rules like they've been doing it makes it look worse.
Yeah, Dave, you actually hit it on the head. The rules changes over the last 5 to 6, 8 years set it up where defense it's a passing league. The NFL is basically a passing league. There's a few teams that don't do it as often, but it's basically throwing the football, which means the only way the defense is going to stop that is to do these blitz packages, which they put together, and they just simply out-muscle those offensive linemen who don't have a chance. Offensive linemen are really on the defense now. They have to put up with those blitz packages, and there's always going to be more injuries, and those are big dudes, and when they rip something or they hurt something, it takes a while for it to cure. I think what you said is it. It's those blitz packages that the defense has. They know they're going to throw the ball. They got no choice.
All right. Before we get to the games, we've got a couple of quick items to take care of. First, we're going to check in with our man in the street. That's Jeff Side from LVSS, and he has a free NFL total. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Got a free pick coming up in the NFL, but first get the rest of November basketball, NBA, and college, along with a pair of conference game of the months in college football. Over 2 weeks of action, only $29. Sign up early. Get a bonus TV winner tonight. Call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916. Free play comes the NFL on Sunday as the Browns and Bengals meet in Cincy. Cleveland is off a bye week with a weak offense, 16th in passing, 25th in rushing, but the defense has been a big surprise, very strong up front, ranked in the top 10 against both the run and the pass. Cincinnati prefers a balanced, conservative offense and a powerhouse defense, top 11 against the run and the pass. The Bengals are 9-2 under the total against the AFC, plus 5-1 under an AFC North division play. When these teams met in September, Cleveland won 17-6, holding the Bengals to just 266 total yards, 4-14 on third down. Your free play, take the Browns and Bengals under the total. Once again, get the rest of November basketball, NBA, and college, along with a pair of conference games of the month in college football. Over 2 weeks of action, just $29, and sign up early and get a bonus TV winner tonight. Call LVSS 1-866-575-8916.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Sure appreciate that. Free plays every day from Jim Feist and myself. Jim, you go first.
Well, if you want free plays sent right to your cell phone each and every day, and it's really something you should do, whether you play them or not on a daily basis. You'll be getting them, and when you're ready to play, there'll be a play there. And we really try to win these games. They're very important to us to win. It's got my name on it, my signature, so I definitely want to win everything that I put out there. Just text winner, 313131, you actually text winner to 313131, and you'll have it sent to you every day right to your cell phone.
Same here. Just text COKIN, COKIN, to 313131, and you get back my free play on a text message for that day and subsequent days as well. And again, they're free. All right, let's go to a football game. And the 49ers coming off a tough game last week against Carolina at home. They have to now travel across the country to face the New Orleans Saints, who are a hot football team right now. They just destroyed Dallas over the weekend. 40 first downs. 40 first downs. Amazing by the Saints in that game. They're not going to get 40 first downs against the 49ers. It'll be a different type of football game, Sean, but I got to tell you, New Orleans kind of a scary-looking football team right now.
You know something, Dave? I've been in this business a long time, and every once in a while you see a line that just doesn't make any sense, and those line makers do not give money away. So let's take a look at this. First of all, San Francisco at 6-3 straight up and against the number, and right now they are the number 6 seed in the NFC, so they're really dragging. They're 3-1 straight up and against the number on the road, but that one loss was as a road dog to Seattle, and that was a pretty bad beating, and they're a road dog here coming off that game against what's that quarterback's name for Carolina? The Carolina Panthers.
Cam Newton.
The New Orleans Saints. Thank you very much. Do you guys remember when the New Orleans, and this is almost the same team that played in that Super Bowl against Indianapolis a few years ago. Do you remember how they got there? They got there because they had a home game in the NFC Championship game against Minnesota when Brett Favre and they looked like they were on their way to the Super Bowl, and he finally threw that interception, and that was in New Orleans, and they won the game, I think, by 3. Dave, is that right? Something like that?
That's correct, yeah.
And the only reason... Yeah, and the only reason they got there is because they had that home court advantage. Now, New Orleans, here they are, 7-2, 6-3 against the number, but there's no secret about their stats at home. They're 5-0 straight up and against the number at home, and they cover these games by an average of 13 points a game, and it's not like they're just squeaking by here. Now, let's look at their schedule. They have a short week. They have to play Thursday football in Atlanta. I don't think they're worried about that. They should win that game, but their deal is to try and get that number 1 seed against Seattle. They've already lost, So here we go. They had 10 days rest, and then they have to go play Seattle on December the 2nd. And in order for that game to be meaningful, they got to keep winning. And 3 points to me is a short number, especially against a team. When they lose, they don't cover. And if they win, they do cover. And I don't see them winning this game. I think this number's like 3 points off. I think it should be more like 6. I don't think New Orleans will have any trouble with this team. And one other thing, Dave, and you know as well as I do, Super Bowl losers, what do they do the following year? A lot of times, in fact, I bet if we look it up, I don't have the exact numbers, but I bet about 60% of the time, they don't even make the playoffs. I do not understand this line at all, and maybe I'm going to get my head handed to me, but I think 3.5 is cheap.
I'm going to look at the total in the game, and had some success on getting the Saints totals right so far, so hopefully we'll do so again. The 49ers are going to try and run the football in this game. That's not a secret. They've got one of the best rushing games in the league, and New Orleans can be run on. That's I'm not going to say it's their Achilles heel defensively, but it's certainly not their strength. They're very good against the pass, and the 49ers, well, they're not very good passing. The 49ers are dead last in the league in passing, 174 yards per game. It's just not the big part of their offense. They are a power football team, and they're going to look to establish that in this game. Even if they fall behind early, I don't see the 49ers getting away from what at least should be their first half game plan here, which is to be as physical as possible and to indicate some superiority in the trenches. As for as good as the Saints offense is, this is still a tremendous defense that they're facing in San Francisco. It's just one of the best units in the league, consistent against both the pass and the run. And I think they can at least contain the Saints' holding field goals even at home. So I think this total is a little bit high. Excuse me. Not in terms of where they set the number, but in terms of how the game's going to play out. I don't think it's going to win by a lot, but I think the under is the right way to go. Jim?
Well, it's a confusing situation because I was talking about this the other day to some people. What has happened to Colin Kaepernick? Now, has something happened to him, or did their offensive game plan change? Or were there so many injuries to some of the players on the offense that they haven't been able to perform? I mean, this team on offense is 32nd. There's only 32 teams in passing, 174 yards per game. That's in passing the ball. In running, yes, they're 147 yards per game. That's fourth in the league. But just like last week again at home against Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, they look absolutely horrendous. Kaepernick he does not look like the same guy. He came out of college. He was running the pistol. He ran the read option last year, and he was dynamic. They've stopped him from doing that. They said, hey, you're going to be a drop-back passer. He's not a drop-back passer. This guy is a dynamic football player, but he's playing in a system now that's not very dynamic. Now, is that going to change? Is the coaching staff going to realize what talent they have and use the talent, or they're going to keep trying to bottle him up, put him in a cage, and make him a drop-back passer? Now, perhaps they're doing this because they don't have any option behind him to win football games. Colt McCoy is the backup quarterback, and if they lose Kaepernick to an injury when he's running all over the field, they're going to end up with Colt McCoy, and they're not going to go anywhere. So they could be doing this to protect them. Let's limp into the playoffs and then turn them loose. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know, because it makes no sense other than that as to why they're playing the way they're playing. They're going to this is a pretty tough situation here. They looked like terrible last week. Before that, they played in London, and they had a week off. They came back from London, didn't look good last week. Now they traveled to one of the toughest home fields in all of football, New Orleans Saints, playing dynamic at home. Covering everything. They're actually, right now, covering more at home than Seattle is, because Seattle's lost the last two times at home against the spread. Big spreads, but they lost to them. This is a tough spot for San. I have no idea what kind of game plan San Francisco's coming in here with, unless we just go, they're going to stay conservative, they're going to stay running the football, they're going to keep Kaepernick bottled up so that he doesn't get hurt. That may be the answer. I don't know why they're playing this way. But whatever they're doing, it ain't working, and they're taking a chance they may never make the playoffs unless they start winning. Because that 5-game run where they won, they weren't beating anybody. This is somebody. This is a good football team, and they got a chip on their shoulder, and they're taking it out on people. They destroyed Dallas in the last game. Will they do it again? Well, this is a much better defense, so I doubt that they'll do that again. I think you're right, Dave. If the game gets out of hand, if San Francisco can't score, New Orleans gets up 14, 17 points, the game can change a lot.
Yeah.
And then you could start to see. I'm looking at I look at opening and closing lines and the movement during the week. Game opens 347.5. Now I'm looking at three, pretty solid threes, a couple 3.5s. I kind of agree with Sean. It looks skinny unless you're going back to San Francisco last year. But San Francisco this year and New Orleans this year, the three looks skinny to me, and I agree with Sean on that. As far as the total's concerned, it's pretty stable. I see no movement at all. So the big money has not come in on this game either way. But I agree that Sean has. I think it's going to go higher. I think the three's going to end up being 4.
All right.
Or even higher than that.
Well, yeah, I won't go too much higher than that, I don't think. But 4, I think 4 is a legit possibility. Before we get to the featured game between the Chiefs and Broncos, we're going to check in with our other man of the street. That's John Cranton, who has a free NFL pick and is going to tell you what Mr. Vegas has rolling for this weekend. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, guys. Got a free pick coming up in the NFL, but first, Mr. Vegas steps up with 7 days of action in all sports for $15. You get NBA, college basketball, the NFL, college football, including his Saturday college football shocker game of the year. He's off his Sunday night NFL game of the year. That was the Saints, a 49-17 blowout. 7 days with Mr. Vegas in all sports, $15, including another game of the year winner Saturday, 1-866-896-1627. Now, last week, Mr. Vegas, free play was on the angry Seattle Seahawks. Well, the free play this week comes in the NFL Sunday as the Raiders and Texans meet in Houston. Now, that's a low total for an NFL game and a great matchup for both offenses. The Raiders can't pass the football, but they're great at running behind quarterback Terrell Pryor. And Houston is tops against the pass, but only 16th against the run. The Houston defense, the last 5 games, 34, 38, 17, 27, and 24 points, all losses. Houston, though, they have a good offense, 12th in the NFL in passing, 11th in rushing, and quarterback Case Keenum has 7 touchdowns and 0 picks. Faces an Oakland defense that is 31st against the pass. Houston on a 7-3 run over the total, including 4-0 over the total at home indoors. Your free play on Sunday, the Raiders Texans over the total. Now remember, Mr. Vegas has 7 days of action in all sports for $15, including that college football shocker of the year going Saturday, 1-866-896-1627.
All right, John Creighton for Mr. Vegas. Chiefs and Broncos on Sunday. Boy, oh boy, what a matchup. Broncos 8-point favorites, seeing 50 on the total. You don't have to hype this one. You got an unbeaten team against Peyton Manning in the Denver Broncos. You've got Jack Del Rio having to step in as the head coach on an interim basis for John Fox, who's recovering from heart surgery. Manning is off a little bit of a scare, I guess you could say, with the ankle, but he appears to be okay. The Chiefs are an amazing story. Absolutely amazing, Jim. 29-67 over the last 6 years. 29-67, and here they are unbeaten. And I know they haven't been the best team in the league. They've been getting some breaks. But the fact is, they're still unbeaten. And I think they're going to look at this and, believe me, these guys would know what the point spread is, or if they're not, they don't know it, they're told it. And everybody in that Kansas City team is going to go into this game saying, boy, they're not giving us any respect at all. They think we're going to get killed. And that's a selling point.
Well, it is a selling point. As far as the 29-67, I kind of throw that out. This is a team that had a lot of management problems, head coaching issues, offensive coordinator issues. This team was in turmoil. Last year, when they had a little bit of stability, it looked like going into the year, a lot of us, including myself, thought that they would be a contender for that division. They got a lot of injuries last year. Almost every cluster injuries and all across the board, and they never really had a chance. They had 2 victories the entire year. This year, they've had the benefit of playing almost every game, not every game, but almost every game against a backup quarterback. It's been absolutely, everything has gone right for them. It's like if you're rolling dice and you need a 7, the wind would come through and change the die to a 7 by a hit the table. Everything. They have had the benefit of playing backup quarterbacks, I think it's like 4 or 5 straight weeks. And that doesn't put any pressure or very much pressure on your defense at all. They're going to go up against the team this week that puts pressure on every defense. So we're going to see a whole different dynamic coming out of this game. Now, Peyton Manning is a little older. He's been banged up. He's had 3 surgeries. We know all of that. And then now the ankle issues. Von Miller has changed their defense a lot. Now, he's come back. All of a sudden, their defense looks a lot more dynamic. I mean, their defense is 30th against the pass, 4th against the run. Well, the problem is this team, Denver usually gets so far ahead of you, the teams that they can't run the ball. They have to throw the ball all over the field to catch up. And, of course, not everybody's capable of doing that. This is going to be a whole – got to remember how Kansas City plays. They run the ball very effectively. Jamal Charles is a great player. He averages 4.3 yards per carry. They dink and dunk. when it comes to the passing game. They don't go downfield a lot. They don't have a lot of dynamism to going down the field. Alex Smith is a guy that manages games. He's not dynamic, but if you take this record he has this year and combine it with what he had at San Francisco before he got hurt and he lost his job to Colin Kaepernick, I don't remember. I think it was 1864 the last time this guy lost a football game. You know, I mean, it's like forever. So he is a winner. And the way he plays, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And Andy Reid has done a great coaching job here. So you've got this totally different styles of football. This is old-style football with Kansas City. That's how they play. And is 9.5, 8.5, is that too big a number against a team that's undefeated? It probably is. I think Kansas City is better. You can't totally blame them for the teams they've had to face. They don't choose that. That's just the way it comes up. Yes, they've had a little bit easier road, but they got a lot of time to prepare for this game. And they did not play last week. They're coming off a bye. A lot of preparation time. Now, here's interesting. Game open 51. I'm seeing 49, 49.5. This is Denver, who up until last week had gone over every game this year. Last week they did not. They put a lot of pressure on San Diego. That's a little bit more. Von Miller coming back is a dynamic defensive player. Their defense is getting better. So we're seeing some under money in this game, and that's because of the style that Denver is facing and Denver's defense getting a little bit better as the season goes on.
It's also because of the weather, which is a little bit of a factor here, potentially. The weather, it's November in Denver, and we're talking about, low 40s. We've got a 30% chance of snow. Going to have double-digit wind in this game, and we know how that can impact any passing game, even with somebody as great as Peyton Manning. The Chiefs, no mystery what they're going to do. They're going to try and shorten this game as much as possible. They don't want to get in a shootout. They can't win that. I think the total is going to continue to come down in this game with the pros betting the under, and I think they're right. I think that's the play in this game. As far as the side is concerned, look, I mean, the Chiefs, from all the sabermetric breakdowns and just the obvious stuff, as you mentioned, playing backup quarterbacks and just seemingly running into weird plays made by the other team's offense every week, they're getting phenomenally lucky. But they're still unbeaten. They're on a major roll. I don't want to get in front of that. I really don't. I mean, it's when the team's getting everything going their way, the idea is to wait for it not to go their way before you try and jump in. So my focus here, if anything, will be on the under, and I think that's where the value is in this game. Sean?
Yeah, Dave, you kind of stole a little bit of my thunder there because I did take the time to look up the weather in Denver, and it's always something you want to do at this time of the year. And you're right, the high is supposed to be about 41. The wind from the northwest, I don't know the layout of that field up there, but it's going to be in double digits, 13 to 15. So it has to help Kansas City, in my opinion. And, in response to what you said, Jim, which is more the stat side, I tend to look at the technical side. So when was the last time a 9-0 team was getting 8 and 8.5 points? I mean, that's like almost unheard of, and I can't remember it in any kind of recent history. And this is actually not just what month? This is just not defense.
Jim said the last time Alex Smith lost the game was in 1864, so I'll figure that was the last time.
That's his grandfather. Right? And this matchup isn't just about defense and offense. This is very good defense against very good offense. Now, I had mentioned before point spreads, and you've heard me use this phrase before, Jim. We've known each other a long time. Point spreads are really about perspective, how you look at another team. And you're right, the Kansas City's played a lot of backup quarterbacks, et cetera, but the fact is they've done 4 games on the road and covered every game. So the perspective, even though you can pick it apart, the bottom line is, and Kansas City not just covering, how about on the road by 22, by 13, by 6, and by 6? They're not just squeaking by, they're covering by comfortable margins, and they're doing it in both roles. The winner of this game, by the way, will be the current number 1 seed. Denver has a lot of reasons to play here, but they're kind of in a bad spot. They're not only at home against Kansas City, but they have to go on the road next week to New England. Tom Brady. There's already a line on that game. I find it hard to believe it. Denver is a 3-point favorite right now, the following week, and then guess who they have to play the week after that? They got to go on the road again and play Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say from here, Jim, probably Denver, the way things are, maybe 2.5 point favorite, something like that if I had to make a number right now. So this is a really major game. Kansas City's deal has to be if we can somehow beat these guys, we will probably have number one pretty much through the playoffs. That's the end of that. Do it right here and now, and you're getting 8.5 points. Maybe I'm stepping into it like I am with this New Orleans game against San Francisco, but there's just no reason in the world to take anybody but those 8.5, or what is it, 8.5 points, maybe 8. I've seen it both. I don't know that it'll get to 9. I find that hard to believe. And with that weather up there, it suits Kansas City's style of offense a whole lot better than it does Denver's, and they clearly have the better defense. I think it is a low-scoring game, Dave. I think you're right about that. I'm going to take the points.
Kansas City. Excellent analysis, guys. Let me chirp in here about the point spread.
Well, that's why I get the big bucks, Jim.
Or lunches, right?
Little shot there, yeah, right. Lunches.
We get lunches at the Mission. That's how we pay, Sean.
Pride is low calorie. I'm not afraid to swallow it.
There's what's called the teaser protection lines, and a lot of places you'll see out there have 9.5 on that, because if somebody comes in and plays a 6 or 7.5 or a 7-point teaser, they get teaser protection lines. So that's an advantage.
That's why they do it. That's why they do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So the real line on this game is 8.5. But in the teaser protection line shops, and if you shop for numbers like all of us do, we're seeing 9.5. Now you can go to that shop, and if you really like the dog, you can even buy it up to 10 if you want to do it. And quite honestly, it wouldn't be that expensive at some of these spots. They actually have some advantages to that. But the real number is 8.5, and everything you guys said is 100% true. This is a huge game. Denver has a real rough road ahead of them the next couple of weeks.
All right, let's get to our best bets and a recap of what we have going this weekend. Sean, you can choose either of the games we talked about, or if you've got one other that you prefer to talk about, by all means, mention that.
No, you know what? We talked about it, and that's it. I can't believe this New Orleans line. I don't think San Francisco makes the playoffs. I know that's a pretty strong team, but I got a lot of trends that back that up over the last 25, 30-year history. Super Bowl losers do not make the playoffs a lot of the time. I don't know what the problem is back there in San Francisco, because the talent is certainly on that ball club, but I think New Orleans, I think this is a blowout by 17 or more. I didn't mean to insult the Chiefs before. I hope it didn't come out that way. I think it's tremendous what they're doing. And, from 2-14 to be unbeaten, it doesn't matter whether they've caught some breaks or not. The fact is they're still winning football games. And they're winning it by and you got to get them.
Yeah, they're winning by playing conservative football and focusing on the defensive end. Their defense is excellent. It's legitimate, too. I think the Broncos' defense is improving, and I really don't think Kansas City's that tough to defend. So I think the under is the way to go in this game. Whenever Peyton Manning's involved, I'm not going to say you're necessarily getting value on the under, because he can tear it up and destroy that ticket in a second. But in the right scenario, the fact that he's out there actually can help you with your play. I think the weather conditions, the big game atmosphere that's going to take place here, and just the likely game planning of the two teams indicates to me that this game will not get into the 50s. So I think the under is the way to play between the Chiefs and the Broncos. It is an under-the-hat weekend with my personal service plays, and that's an opportunity for you to get some really good stuff at a very small price. Big games, small price. How's that? You're going to play all my under-the-hat plays through Monday in football and basketball. You get plays every day. There'll be at least 4, probably more like 6 overall. And the total cost is $20 at 1-866-896-1629. That's 1-866-896-1629. And Jim, obviously, you are revved up and ready to go. College football game of the year, the highlight this weekend.
Dave, I'm really excited about this game. It lines up, as we're analyzing games here, we do this with most of the games on the card. If we have an opinion about a game, we dig into it and we find angles. Well, what I'm doing with my college game of the year as well. And that's why I call it a college game of the year. It's $500 online. I know it's not cheap, but for those of you who want to buy it online, you can. And then, because I know it is expensive, I also have an offer where if you call 1-866-841-1655, you can get the college game of the year for $100, and you get a bonus play along with that. Now, you got to remember, too, that I've had a great football season. The pros have been absolutely outstanding. The pro totals have been off the charts. They've been just off the charts. The college games have been very, very, very good. And now we start with, well, let me not forget this. We start off with the NBA a couple weeks ago, and we've been doing very well with that. College basketball just started. If anybody want to watch the great basketball game last night, Duke against Kansas was really showcasing some great talent. The game, it's all here. This is a great time of year. You got all the football, all the basketball. It's a super time. It's a very busy time of year, but it's also a time of year where you can make a lot of profit if you know what you're doing. That's what I do. Every day I get up 4 o'clock. I work till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Every day. There are no days off. This is a time to make money. And that's what I do from now through the end of March. And then I start to relax a little bit, take a couple months to kind of clear my head, go through the NBA. I personally don't do baseball. My staff does that. This is the time I work because I know I can make me and you money. So you call this number, 1-866-841-1655. You get my college game of the year in football. And I have a lot of other things that you want to get involved with. But when you make that phone call, you get a bonus play along with it. It's only $100 for the game, or you can buy it right here online for $500.
All right, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for this edition of Proline. A quick note, by the way, if you've been watching college basketball early, it's been a parade of free throws with, with the new rules. UNLV, 24 for 48 from the foul line in their first 2 games. Fellas, you better pick it up, or there's going to be no NCAA tournament appearance for this squad this year. I mean, that is abysmal free throw shooting, and with the new rules, if you can't make free throws, you're going to lose basketball games like they're going out of style. That's just the way things are now in college basketball. Don't forget, speaking of college, there is a college football edition of Proline, and that's right here at the website, so check that out. Get a couple of opinions on some great games this weekend. And meanwhile, for Sean Hess and Jim Feist, we'll say so long, and thanks for watching this edition of Proline.
Thanks, guys.